All right. Mina, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry to throw you on there with the Dannies right away. But first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm back in LA from Green Bay. I was in Green Bay all week. I gotta say, I did love Green Bay, and I'm not lying. I had a good time. The last day was a little bit cold and rainy, but it was a great city to have the draft.
Had you ever been to Green Bay before?
Yeah, a couple times. So it was not my first. It was my first time this time of year. Previously, I'd been like at the beginning of the football season, which is a great time to go, by the way. Great time.
So what did you think of the Patriots draft overall?
Well, I am not pandering here. I just did an episode of Draft Winners, and they were my first winner. So, spoiler alert, if you're watching this and you're a Pats fan, go subscribe to the Mina Show featuring Lenny. Go check it out. We're a very Drake May positive space, but also very positive on the draft. I really liked it. Really liked a lot of the players. I like the value they got them for. I love the focus on helping May, to be honest, obviously, which was a concern of mine coming out of free agency. I was just kind of I was worried about the Pats going into the draft, like, you know, the metaphor I've used on my podcast is shopping hungry at the grocery store. With like, you just like should never go to the grocery store when you're hungry because you walk out with a cake. And I was worried that would lead them to overpay an offense. And while some people could argue Will Campbell at 4, maybe we'll see, you know, right? Like that might be a little bit high for him. I still think that they came away with some pretty good offensive contributors.
So Mina, we spent like the last 4 months talking about Will Campbell and the difference in like an inch and a quarter. And I don't know where you stand on this. So just as far as his long-term viability as a left tackle, where did you end there with the draft as whether he can do it or not?
I think he can. I've been a fan of his for a while, going back to, I'm not going to be like the Will Campbell hipster, but I will say I became very impressed with him watching Jay Daniels, right? So that was like my first, like, oh, okay, this dude, like I generally was very impressed with Jay Daniels' protection at LSU. Got some intel on his game from Andrew Whitworth, who knows him very well, of course, and, you know, has the LSU connection there too. And, you know, I thought the 2024 tape was a little bit up and down at times, but I saw a lot of the same traits that I liked about him for the first time I watched him. I thought he looked smooth. I thought you didn't see a lot of panic in his game. I think he's a plus athlete as well. I think he's equally proficient in both the run and the pass game. Didn't really see like glaring weakness. The length, you know, does show up a little bit on, and we'll see. You know, I know that there's some debate about whether or not he might have to go inside at some point. But I think for New England, just in terms of like where they were picking, even if he isn't the long-term left tackle, I think he's still a good draft pick for them.
Definitely. Yeah. It's funny how the discourse changed on Will Campbell over the last year, because like if you had told Patriots fans last year after they drafted Drake May, like, hey, you can get Drake May and guess what? You'll also get Will Campbell. I think they would have been ultimately extremely thrilled. Yeah. And I do think that the opinions, even within Patriots fans, have changed on Will Campbell over the last few days, where like when they first took him, they were like, I don't know, like it's a safe pick, whatever. And then immediately after the draft, I gave that pick a B on Twitter, and I had people like threatening me over it. They were so excited about the pick all of a sudden. So like the discourse has changed once again, but overall, I do think it was a smart pick. I don't think they could have made a better pick there. I don't think there was another obvious answer. We do have some super chats to get to here real quick. And once again, if you want to send in a super chat, it all goes to my LLS fundraiser, Visionaries of the Year campaign. We have a question on the Joe Milton trade, which is very dated, but so thoughts on the Milton trade. This is from Rick Whippy. Benefits of moving him for what seemed like not a lot. Bonus question, is Mina over Celebrity Jeopardy? So, Mina, first of all, what'd you think of the Joe Milton trade, I guess? Yeah, ultimately they wound up trading the pick that they got for him. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have every time, if he stayed, every time you looked at him, you just see Travis Hunter. So you got to get that guy out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I was never like a Joe Milton person. Like I never, you know, he had some real believers. So I don't think it's like this major loss. I don't see him as a starter in the NFL. I know that some people are kind of entranced by the arm and all of that. I just didn't see it. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I actually do not know off the top of my head who Greg May's backup is right now. You guys will have to tell me.
Joshua Dobbs.
Oh, it's Dobbs. Great. Yep. Like that's totally fine. That's honestly like better than a lot of teams around the NFL. But yeah, I didn't think I guess now, you're seeing how desperate teams are. You're seeing, I mean, like the Seahawks just moved Sam Howell for nothing as well. Right. So I just feel like it's really hard to get that much of a return. And I'm not over celebrity jeopardy. Every now and then I just get haunted by my own cowardice.
Oh, no. So sorry to hear that. Sorry that Rick brought up a sore subject as well.
It's okay, Rick. Rick with you.
Let's throw in another super chat here and split this into two. So Mina, when you look at the whole draft, I think you just mentioned him, but the prospect with a high ceiling. And then for the Patriots specifically in their class, which prospect do you see as the highest ceiling? This comes from Kyle Marsden.
Yeah. Okay. Well, highest ceiling is Travis Hunter. But sorry, Patriots fans to rub that in. Highest ceiling the Patriots draft, though, is really fun. Thinking through Henderson, Williams, Wilson. Wilson's really good. Swinson. I'd probably say I think Henderson has the ceiling to be like a top 5 to 10 running back in the NFL. I really believe that. So much of running backs hitting their ceiling is, of course, though, based on situation. It'll be contingent upon whether or not the offensive line takes a step forward. But, he, I think, has all of the guys that they drafted, probably when I think of ceiling, I think of can they be in the top 5 at the position? And I do think he can do that.
I'm sure Andrew loved that you brought up the offensive line. We've had multiple way too long debates about whether the Patriots could take a running back with the state of their offensive line. And Andrew is very firmly in. I think Andrew wanted them to wait until undrafted period to add a running back just until the offensive line was fixed. But I was fine. I would have been fine with Genty at 4, and I was also fine with Henderson at 38. So I
was happy late day 2, early day 3. Basil Tootin, Danny Kelly's already gone. We bonded over him over several highlights and texts. And so look, I was just wait a little bit longer. But look, if you told me they would get Kyle Williams and Jared Wilson later that night, I would have said sure. Order doesn't matter. We just didn't know it at the time.
We've got another one here. I'm not going to say which Washington state. I'm going to say which state of Washington receiver on our team does me in comments better. Jalen Polk from UW or Kyle Williams from Wazoo.
Polk's such an L for me. I thought he would be so much better as a pro. I still don't get it. And I'm not giving up, right?
No.
There's obviously a lot of change in the regime and all of that, but it was really disappointing. And it's just not who he was in college at all. So, yeah, but I mean, at this point, it's pretty hard to pick him over anyone. Williams, to kind of focus on the good here, was a player I really wanted for Seattle. Honestly, it's just a team that I root for. I think there really wasn't anyone like him at that point in the draft, which is why I was so thrilled for New England to get him. Just an elite separator. He comes to the roster and immediately fills the need of giving you someone who can win downfield, which was kind of the missing piece and why I love the pick so much. But he can separate underneath. He's a really good route runner. The ding on him, the reason why he's available is really just size. But I feel like he fits in perfectly. He's exactly what this offense needed. And suddenly, you're looking in the room and it feels a lot more complete, it's kind of coming together.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, I know a lot of Patriots fans like Jalen Knoll around that pick as well, but just feels like Williams is a more complete receiver and something more that the Patriots currently need, where in the slot, I know that you don't want to not draft a player like they did with Ladd McConkey last year because you have Damari Douglas in the building, but Damari Douglas can play the slot. There's some people within the building who think that Jalen Polk is actually a better fit in the slot. So he's another guy who could get some inside snaps this season. Kendrick Bourne can play in the slot. Stephon Diggs can play in the slot. So even though I like Jalen Knoll, it felt a little bit redundant if they were going to take him. Yeah. Whereas Kyle Williams did play a lot more outside at Washington State. Like you're saying, he can separate, he can get open versus man. So it did feel like the more complete player and the better fit for the Patriots offense when they took him there.
Yeah.
Very good. Zooming out real quick, Mina, we just asked this to the Dannies. Your divisional previews aren't going to be for a while in the pod. Is the playoffs going to be part of that conversation, though, when you do have it July and August?
For New England, you mean?
Yeah.
Boy.
In the mix. We'll put it in the mix.
Yeah, I think they're going to take a big leap forward. They'll probably be if I put together a list of teams I expect to improve the most, I would put New England up there. I mean, real defensive overhaul, bringing in a mixture of, expensive players, obviously. And also, I actually like the defensive players they drafted too. I mean, not that they'll be contributors right away, but nice mix of young youth and veteran depth. And I think the defense last year, obviously there were injuries, get Barmore back. Vrabel's in the building. I just really like. I think that side of the ball, you're going to do a big bounce back. For the offense, I think it's just going to come down to whether or not the offensive line can be competent. I think so. But, it is asking a lot of a rookie and Will Campbell. Somebody, they didn't really make the sorts of improvement. I mean, it was Moses, right? Who they added at the right tackle.
Moses. Yep.
He's at least gives you competent tackle play on a bookend. And look, I mean, nothing can be worse than what we watched last year, but I think if the offensive line is average, then they could be in the mix. Absolutely.
Definitely. Was there, we'll get you out of here in a minute here, but is there one more move that you could foresee the Patriots making, whether that's a trade, like someone left out there in free agency, anything else looking forward that you think they could do to maybe push them over that edge into a potential playoff spot? I know there's not a lot of those guys still out there, but is there anything that you could see out there?
Thinking of less about free agents and more about any trade opportunities, because New England is an interesting spot in that you guys are, I know this well, obviously they weren't able to get some free agents and yet they have all this money and they spent some of it. But I think they're the kind of team where, like, if it's a player like, I don't know, a Trey Hendrickson, for example, I don't think necessarily that would be what Cincinnati would do, but a team that doesn't want to pay a guy, New England would be a great, like a recipient of a trade. George Pickens is someone who comes to mind. That would be, it's kind of hard for me to imagine Mike Vrabel signing off on that one. So I guess, I have to think about it. Ramsey's out there too as a trade guy, Tyreek Hill. You guys would know better than I don't really have a feel for how aggressive this front office is, that kind of thing. Because when we start talking about veteran switching teams, it really becomes about sort of the willingness of the front office, and whether or not they're comfortable, I suppose, with the offensive makeup as it is. I would love them to add more offensive lines, truly still, but it might be hard to find a trade partner.
Yeah, I think you're probably a year away from being a year away is the best way to put it. And so they're coalescing a lot of young talent. Coaches are coming together. Like Josh McDaniels' offense will not be the last that we saw, so it might be tough. I would throw this out there. Holdouts this summer. Like whomever doesn't want to go anywhere. New England's a little bit more attractive. Drake May's established. He's got enough highlights that if you're scrolling through your reels, you're going to see him. If you were Brandon Ayuk a year ago, maybe you change your mind. They were in on Ayuk. That was my only thought.
Well, thanks so much, Mina, for joining us. We will get you out of here. But this means a lot to me, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Go check it out. A+, one of my favorite drafts. Take care.
Thanks, Mina.
Thank you.